Coming up, the Devils get back on their winning ways. Jack Hughes gets himself back on track, and your New Jersey Devils officially clinch their playoff position. We break it all down next. All right, my friends, it is the Devil's Puck Luck podcast where we are your host over here. Adam Armbrecht breaking down the Brooklyn Nets and the Locked On Nets podcast, the Giants on the One Giant podcast, the Red Bulls on the Red Bulls Review podcast, and there, my friends, is the 20-year season ticket holder, my cousin and your friend, Danny McDonough, man. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I like that.
Yeah, well rested.
I'm your friend, too. You know, Donnie's cousin. Right? Oh, all right. No,
family, blood related.
It's just family.
Nothing you can do about it.
I'm doing great. Big win. Devils against the Senators, an important win, a must win in my mind, just to get back on track. And seeing Jack play well is also great.
Yeah, it's funny. Where's my, hold on a second. I did something a little official here.
Whoa.
Remember last episode, you can go check the tape. I held up a smaller version of this, but I had it blown up production-wise. Jack is back. I said that I would hold that up sometime soon. It turns out it only took one game.
That's great.
This is one where we'll dispense with the negative stuff early first, and go to what matters most. Jack getting back on track. They're down 1 goal. He comes out. He does the classic. Jack will do it himself, but with none of the nonsense that he's been struggling with of late. This was about a 3.5-second post to post.
Yeah,
and did it on his own. Just a brilliant goal from Jack.
Oh yeah, power play too. So he was able to get more open space. Skating through the defenders. He had great vision. He knew what he could do there, and a great move to be the goalie 5-hole. So Jack looks good. Let's hope it's sustainable. Let's hope that he has and can build on games like this, and down the last 9 games, continue to produce the points and maybe push, to tie Elias with 96 points for the team record.
That's tricky because when we did the crossover, which one was it?
Okay, take your time. I'm here.
Devils Fanatics.
Yeah.
We did it with him. We talked about who's your favorite.
Yeah.
Like Elias is he's my favorite all time. I just remember watching him growing up, and I have an affinity for him.
Devil's State of Mind. That was with Neil.
That was with Neil?
Yeah, it's okay. Listen,
I don't think so. I think you're wrong.
We talked actually with both of them. We told Justin and we talked with Neil about it.
I blacked out. I don't remember. They were great conversations, though. And you can check those out on YouTube and on the podcast feed. Wherever you get your needs fulfilled, we're a full service.
What's great, too, is thank you, everybody out there. We've gotten a lot more viewers and listeners out there. So, it's really appreciated. I know Justin, obviously, from Devils Fanatics, check out his Shout Out the Devils podcast, and Neil from Devil's State of Mind was great too. So, but we're gonna have more guests now. We're gonna get people a little more associated with the team. We got some surprises coming up soon.
Goal and assist for Hughes in this one. Yes, we do have surprises coming up, but a goal and assist in this game for Hughes. Just specifically, briefly on him. What did you see in this game that you think means that he's back on track, as opposed to we've seen glimpses like this in games, and then the next game comes back and you go, some more of the same.
Here's a good question. I mean, what we hope for is just the puck possession, right? The less sloppy play, the less wild passing across the center of the ice. We had neutral zone breakdowns against the Senators. We had some defensive lapses against the Senators. We're trying to keep it positive.
What do you mean, that Timo turnover when he went the other way on the odd man rush to score the first goal?
Yeah, and the Siegenthaler trying to clear the zone on the third goal that Ottawa scored to tie it up 3-3. But listen, keeping it positive, Jack played a lot better. Timo played better too, after that turnover. He had that one bad play. Yes, it was a bad play. There's a lot of positive coming out of this game when it comes to more puck possession and simplifying with the passes going into the offensive zone. Let's hope that's sustainable, especially with Jack. But what I saw that I liked is the fact that he was stronger on the puck too.
Yeah.
And
decisive.
He was very decisive. And, it's the one thing that Devils have that's great is they're one of the best teams in the league with exiting their defensive zone, 1 or 2 crisp pass, and they're already in the attacking zone. And that's what the Devils are really going to live and die on, when it comes to the playoffs, too.
Yes.
And why we talked about the struggles the Devils had playing against the neutral zone trap with a lot of these opposing teams coming in. So if they're fluid with their passing, like Jack was, and the rest of the team is, I think we're going to be successful, and I still think that we can push toward that top spot in the Metro.
We'll talk about that coming on the back end of this episode. 2 power play opportunities. You mentioned it's a power play goal. I mean, that kind of matters for a team that's been having a hard time converting those opportunities. They won the face-off battles in this one, 57% on those. They had the shot advantage here, 35-28. They're not often going to win the hit battle, and they didn't win it in this one, 32-13 in favor of Ottawa. But, boy, while you can start to have this conversation, I'm going to update my sign as you have some positive thoughts to communicate around one man named Miles here when it came to physicality and Ottawa trying to take it to some of our top guys and a nice bit of, which you expect all the time in hockey, but sticking up and just kind of sending a message. We may not be the most physical team, but we're not going to just take it.
Yeah, and we'll rewind even like a couple games. You know, Wood has played a lot better since he's come back from injury. He's very smart with the puck now, and he's really forechecking hard, and he's playing better against the boards. So I know I'm tough on Wood. I know I am. I really like the way he's playing in the last handful of games. But going to this game against the Senators, Wood's post-game interview, if anybody saw it, was great because he basically said that he saw Tkachuk basically come from across the ice and go into Sharangovich pretty hard against right near the Devils bench. And he knew right away that he was going to fight him. He was ready to fight Brady right away. So I love that he's sticking up for his team. You know, that's the quintessential team player is what we need in those types of roles. So I'm glad Wood did it, and he had a strong game even though he got that misconduct.
You better believe it. Now, in terms of fighting somebody, I don't know.
I just saw the sign.
I apologize. That's for viewers. But it's good to see you coming around on the young man who certainly did stick up for one of his guys, one of the top scorers on the team. Can't allow it to happen. Now, when you fight somebody, and I don't recommend it, I haven't done it. It's not my thing. I'm a pacifist. But is it a fight if you just kind of get hit in the head a couple times and fall down? I think he lost his footing ultimately. I wouldn't say Miles Wood went in there and gave the old 1-2 so much as he got roped and doped.
No, he's not like I don't know what he was doing with his footing. But listen, he had a couple of good shots in there. But yeah, Brady seemed to have the balance, but it's just the point that he's doing it, you know. And let's go back to the physicality, the fact that the Devils are getting out hit like this.
Hold on a second, people listening on the podcast. If you're listening, Danny hearts Wood now, which is fantastic. I want to make sure we get that out there for everybody. So you've turned a corner on Wood, which is nice.
I did, you know, and we're gonna need him coming down the stretch for that physicality. But you know, one thing that worries me going into the playoffs, not just obviously the defensive breakdowns. It's going to be the physicality, you know. We have to be strong in front of our own net, but even as important in front of the opposing team's net. You know, we really got to show that physicality, and we got to stick up for our teammates, and we got to play strong on the boards.
And that's where Timo matters a lot since coming over the trade, just that physical style of play. Eliminate some of the lapses, especially the turnovers, and then all of a sudden his game is, you know, solidifying and becoming something really valuable, as we expected. Blackwood gets back between the pipes on this one. He shows a little bit of rust, and then Vitek comes on in relief. This is all kind of a one big package here. And then also Schmid gets sent down.
Let's talk about Schmid right now, because I think we're trying not to focus on the negative, right? So,
because I'm going to put this, Blackwood, he's going to be rusty. Like, I'm not even going to knock it that much. It wasn't a good performance, and that's okay. He can bounce back. He's been with this team. He has experience. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But Schmid gets sent down. Let's go positive. He's young.
Yes.
He's shown a tremendous amount of upside this season in a much larger role than we anticipated coming into the year, certainly. We have to feel really good going forward about what this kid potentially is capable for this team.
Right, and that's looking at the positive right now. You know, it's knowing that Schmid is one of the future goaltenders of this team, you know, and in my opinion, will back up Vitek next year. You know, so I think that's what you're looking at. But, you know, as far as Blackwood's play, that first goal was terrible.
But it is off the turnover, just to be clear.
No, it is.
It's still bad because you have the angle. I know.
Right. It was a great shot by Brady Tkachuk too. Right. You know, but it's a bad goal to let up. You know, he just wasn't squared up to the shooter. Bad positioning. It's a save he should have made.
Yep.
Third goal people were complaining about, but again, that goes back to Siegenthaler basically with the clear attempt that just did not happen and the great deflection in front. You got to pass on that one, obviously. But, you know, to me, it's what's the best chance to win in the playoffs? Was it Vitek and Schmid, or is it Vitek and Blackwood? I see people on Twitter and all over social media space saying, "Oh, Blackwood's going to get hurt in a minute anyway, and Schmid will be back up." So it's
not, by the way, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of like wishing ill on someone,
right?
Or or injuries or otherwise.
But no, it's like you said. Let's keep it positive in the sense that Schmid is going to be one of the goalies of the future, and right now we just got to roll with the punches, and see where we're going to be. With 3 games left in the season, we're going to see where we're going to be with our goaltending options.
So are you surprised? Are you surprised by it? And
No.
now, because the other part is there have been injuries, there have been guys out of the lineup. Do you think that the immediate send down for Schmid is as much about the high level? Blackwood's back. He's been here. He's the guy that's going to back up Vitek. That's the rule of thumb. As opposed to, we actually need to safeguard against some other positions and potential injuries and making sure that we have the right complement of players, at least in the short term over the remainder of the season.
I mean, you would have loved to see Vitek and Schmid as the tandem, right?
I just think I think it makes sense, and I don't think whatever Blackwood at his best, on his best run as a New Jersey Devil has been, there's not a world where I can't look at Schmid and say he's not capable of that, and certainly more.
Right, and it goes back to experience, I'm sure, too, is the fact that Schmid is a young goaltender and still has a lot of work to do. He's been hot in some games, but he's going to have his lapses, too, just like any goaltender and any young player is going to.
They got a lot of young players, though.
No, agreed.
The team's young.
Listen, and at the end of the day, I had a feeling this was going to happen, that Blackwood's going to be our backup. It's what it is, It's really what it comes down to. It's what it is, and you just got to keep moving and keep playing. And the positive is Schmid is going to be a vital part of this team moving forward in the years to come.
Okay. That's the positive.
Yeah, we have to, because it's annoying, It's annoying for me to sit here and know that Schmid is the better goaltender right now than Blackwood is. Yep. And Blackwood's had flashes of playing well during the season, and the Devils behind him, haven't put on great performances. Right now, you just have to say it's what it is. You don't like it. You'd rather see Vitek and Schmid going into the playoffs, and maybe it will be towards the last few games of the year. We don't know yet.
I was going to say, do you see any world where Schmid gets brought back up before the playoffs start? If something unfold here? Obviously, it can only be Blackwood.
Right.
It's not if Vitek struggles.
Right. If you see Blackwood really, really struggle, and if they don't think he's healthy, it's going to be that phantom upper body or lower body injury, So
lower body injuries, they always come back to get
Hockey's the most vague. It's crazy.
That being the case, though, it was nice too. I think the funny thing, we talked about this before with this team and with recent losses. There's been games where you feel like arguably they played well enough to win, and I have loved consistently about them all season, and we know this from the stats of when they get down, it's almost frustrating in a way. They're like, oh, okay. Now there seems to be, especially from the younger players, this sense of like, well, we know we're better than this team, or we know we're good enough to beat them, and it gets them fired up. I wish they would sometimes come out with that type of energy, focus, drive, determination, etc. But this was another good example of that, and I think it's nice, just the reward of, you said, gave up the goal that tied it up 3-3, but you come right back, you get 2 more goals, you put the thing away, 5-3 victory, and you get that sense of, even if it hasn't always shown up in the final score line, even across some of these losses, I don't think the team has lost confidence. It's just a matter of making that little extra pass and finishing certain plays out.
Right. I think it's just, like you said, what we've been talking about for a while, fast starts. Let's get off to these fast starts so we're not chasing the game, and there's been a lot of games in the last 2-3 weeks where we haven't been playing our greatest hockey, that we're chasing the game. And that's when you're going to make more of the offensive mistakes, the defensive mistakes.
He's okay.
I'm okay.
No. You know what it is, though? He gets emotional when he talks about defense.
I got emotional there. Because you're pressing. They're pressing. When they're down, they're pressing, and they're going to take those chances. They're going to make those mistakes. But, at the end of the day now, we're looking forward. The Sabres game, we had some really bad play, And now I'm just happy that the Devils have that confidence that they know they're going to be able to score.
Yeah.
They know they're going to be able to put up goals. Let's tighten up defensively, and let's get off to those fast starts. I'm okay, by the way.
I'm not really concerned about it.
Yeah, I was a little...
I'm sure it'll work itself out.
I'm emotional right now.
It's move on from music co-host. I move on from music co-host. There's options out there. We're already forming connections.
I had a little tickle. You know what I mean?
It's going to be fine. Just keep focusing on your boy. Now, the other thing is then the Devils get this win. They clinch the playoff spot, as we're all well aware. Follow the bouncing ball if you want to sing along. And we look now at the standings. We talked about this recently. Oh, sorry. One last thing I just wanted to make here real quick. Hughes had 6 more shots in that game that makes 16 across the last 2. We said that. Like, just be decisive. Make the decision. Take the shot. And that goes for everybody on the Devils. It's the theme of the season. It's just take the shot. Sometimes they want to make that extra perfect, beautiful turnover going the other way, opposition goal scenario. Where
To jump into that, too, it's the quality of shots. Remember when he had 10 shots, but he was a -2, and we were like, what is he doing? He's trying to skate through everybody. It was more quality shots.
Yeah, which is important too.
And Nico had a lot of great shots and was robbed on a few of his attempts too. So
it was a great game overall. So now onto the standings though. We talked about this. Can they obtain it? We talked about it with Justin from Devils Fanatics when we had him on. I don't remember which conversation was which then. Trying to still go after that number 1 seed. And everyone said yes, they still can. And they still can.
Yes.
They're only 2 points back in the standings from the Hurricanes, although the Canes do have 2 games in hand. At the time of this recording, Sunday, 5:10 p.m. The Canes are going to have a game
right now
that we'll find out when it concludes.
Yeah.
That for me personally, with the Devils only having 9 games remaining on the schedule, you kind of need the Canes to lose this one with 2 in hand just to really make it feel like, hey, if we have a nice run here going towards the playoffs, we can get there. Because it's not going to be a given that the Devils, they're going to win 7 out of their last 9 games? No. You're going to need some other teams to give you some hand here against the Canes.
We're big fans of Boston today, beating the Canes. And obviously Boston's the best team in the league right now. It's very possible Canes are playing well at home. Like Adam said, at the end of the day, though, we have to focus on ourselves. The Devils have to focus on their play. And if maybe we can ring off 6 out of 9 or 7 out of 9. And if true. Carolina is 5-4 or 5-5, 6-4 in their last handful of games, there's a good chance that we can catch them.
And frankly, overtime games are going to be what you want to avoid with the Canes too. It's like those little extra points you pick up just for being a part of it makes a difference.
My biggest concern and my bigger concern is how well the Rangers are playing right now, and they are creeping up on us. So we have to continue to win these games. And this week, Adam, we'll talk about it. Islanders and Rangers coming up. So these are massive games in the standings.
And you mentioned the Rangers, 73 games played, so on even footing as far as how far they are into the season. 4 points back of the Devils, 43, 20, and 10 right now, but playing really good hockey, which is what we expected. To your point, though, I will say, if we think about, yes, do we want to get the number 1 seed? Of course we do. Who doesn't like a number 1 seed?
Right.
But if the Devils win 6 of their last 9 games and the Canes just are on a run and we don't get it, the quality of play is still what matters most here.
Exactly.
Over anything as far as the standings go. When we talk about the matchups wise, is anything evolving for you when you see the way other teams are playing right now in terms of what you prefer, getting to the 1, how it improves, that all the way down the line?
It goes back to our conversation in the first couple episodes. What's our goal for this season, right? It's beating the Rangers in the first round, but then losing to the Canes. Does it matter if we get the 1 seed and lose in the first round to someone else? Point being, it doesn't matter because the East is so strong, in my opinion, that look, we don't want to play the Rangers in the first round. We just don't want to right now. The Rangers are one of the hottest teams in the East. They're playing really well right now. A lot
of attractive guys on that squad, I think. I've heard some of them are going to go into modeling potentially.
Because I said the hottest team in the league?
Oh,
yeah.
On the ice.
No, they're playing awesome. I don't know if you saw any of the Florida first Ranger game yesterday, but Rangers down 2-0 and they come back 4 unanswered goals, to win that game 4-3. So they're playing really well. They're playing confident. Igor Shesterkin is playing his best hockey of the year now again. So to me, that's the tougher team to beat, in the first round. But it doesn't matter as long as, like you said, we're playing really, really good hockey going into the playoffs. We're going to fall where we're going to fall. We handle our own business. We still have a chance to catch that number 1 in the Metro. If we don't, we don't.
Islanders, Penguins in the wild card positions right now. I mean, do you definitively look at that as being a very clear drop off from the top of the standings here?
No.
You look at the records and you can say 83 points, 82 points, 79 for the Panthers even, who are right behind them there in those first 2 wild card spots. But then you go and you look at the rosters and you look at the names and the players, and some of them are at different points of their career than their primes. But I mean, that's to your point too about you're going to have to play. And are there harder paths through the playoffs? Of course there can be. But I don't look at it and go, well, good news is if it ends up being the Penguins, that's no problem at all. You know what I mean? Like, and there's bad matchups as well that are relative to the Canes or to the Devils or to the Rangers and how you prefer things to line up.
Devils and Islanders is a good matchup, but remember, that is a tough team that's healthy now and physical.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an easy matchup. I think Florida is actually going to catch Pittsburgh, and they're going to get the last wild card seed and play Boston in the first round. It's my prediction. I think that the Penguins they're reeling a little bit when it comes to their defense. So we'll see. These last 8, 9, 10 games for teams are going to be so defining in the sense of how they're feeling and their confidence going into the playoffs. And now, I was texting with John, my brother, and
Jonathan.
John was like, listen, the way they're playing after the Sabres game, John was a little bit of a pessimist. It goes back to him being a Mets fan a little bit. They're going to have an early exit if they're playing the way they're playing.
You're a Mets fan too.
I am, but I'm not as pessimistic as John, though, when it comes to sports. I'm not. I'm not. Come on, you can do that. Listen, my brother's right. He's right in the sense if we're going to play the way we were playing in the last 2 weeks and, have a losing record, we're going to struggle in the first round of the playoffs. Now we have to turn the corner and we just have to play a lot better defensively, get solid goaltending, get Jack back on track to what he was doing, which I think we're slowly seeing it, and just more consistency, and we're going to be all right.
You've got, as you mentioned, the Islanders away, virtual home games when you're traveling in the tri-state area, and then you're going to have the Rangers at home at the Rock. I'm guessing you're going to go to that one?
No, I actually sold my tickets for a lot of money. So I actually want to watch this game at home too. I could have gotten more tickets to this game for a lot of money, but for me, I sold my season tickets for 6 times what they were. And I'm proud to say it was to a Devils fan because I did not want to sell to a Rax fan. I really didn't, but oh boy, he's feverishly writing over there. I don't even know what this is right now. I'm actually a little nervous. I don't even know what it says right now. I gotta look.
So Dan sells out.
No, listen.
In a lot of ways, it kind of alters the approach that we have to this podcast, right? Because on the one hand, you got a guy like me just sitting here trying to be a fan of the team. I dream on going to as many games as I can throughout the season. And then you got scumbags. And I'm not talking about any one individual in particular, but let's just say people make decisions, right? You could be the difference maker here. Now, luckily, there are Devils fans.
I sold the tickets for $800, man.
Well, let's not talk about money. That's just incredibly uncouth. However, what I will tell you is I wonder if it's the difference. I wonder if the difference is your voice.
Are you gonna blame me if the Devils lose?
Big time!
I knew he was going to say that.
Big time!
Too.
Right on the podcast, big large letters. Danny broke the Devils. That'll be the way that we approach that. But then after the Rangers game,
this guy,
they will go ahead and have at Chicago, at Winnipeg, and then home for those Penguins and for the Blue Jackets as well. So that's just that next little.
I'm going to the 4th and the 6th game, and actually, you're coming to one of those games with me. So
don't worry, guys. I'll be there to make sure this guy.
Are you going to wear your lucky hat?
It on track. Yeah. Listen, I've only broke that out one time, and it did its job.
Right.
So, if needed.
So now
that potentially, I put on these sweet shades if you're watching on YouTube, but I can't see a damn thing.
So now that we have 100 points, which is pretty crazy because we haven't done this in a while.
What's the franchise number is record points all time?
Oh, you got to remind me. We were just talking about this too. I think it's 111 or 112. I don't remember off the top of my head. I do know that the Devils haven't made the playoffs since 2018, so that 5-year stretch feels great. And I don't even care that Florida lost and we got in like that and we clinched like that. I'm glad that we won that game, though, obviously, against Ottawa. But no, it's a great feeling. We got 9 games left, and we have 100 points, and it's insane to think about.
They could be setting in the old. They said what happens in the playoffs. We'll worry about that when we get there.
Yeah,
you break the playoff drought. Great. You could potentially set the franchise record.
We can
for points in a season. Like the number of things you mentioned earlier about Hughes trying to catch Elias. Like there are franchise-defining things that are happening inside of this season for the Devils, and I think it is important because once we get to the playoffs and once we know the matchups, we'll dive into those, full tilt and want to see how the Devils can be successful. But that is the high level thing. A lot of really great moments and achievements have come out of this season for the Devils, for young players, for core players that are going to be a part of this franchise going forward. So this isn't me hedging emotionally about what happened in the playoffs, but it's just a good reminder of like there are already a lot of achievements, regardless of how far they go.
We have 4 30-plus goal scorers. It's incredible to think about, and who's your under the radar guy this year? Like that you don't even think about how many goals he has, how many points he has. You know who it is for me. I know that you know who it is.
Miles Wood, which is good though. And I think that's important that you've held on to him for so long and really,
it's Nico. Nico is quietly having a phenomenal year, rounding off that fourth person in the 30-plus goal. Yeah. And not even in there is Mercer, who's another phenomenal player.
Do it together, guys. Mercer is my guy because we talked about him so frequently. Yeah. It's not like you don't know who Dawson is, but the idea of like, you don't say his name a lot on a game to game because he's where he's supposed to be. Yeah. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and then you turn around and you look at the stats and what he's accumulating. And go, like that. You need that behind all these other guys that are doing some of the more high profile moments. You need a guy that just goes, what do I do? Yeah, I show up and I go to work.
I wonder if Palat was here for most of the season and wasn't injured, what he would have done too. In a full season.
That's interesting.
And now it's good thinking about too going into the playoffs is people seem to forget it. He had a great game, by the way, against the Senators. Just got some bad puck luck. Adam. But he this is what he does. He's built for the playoffs, Palat. Yeah. So, and he's going to really help this young core understand what it really means to be in the playoffs when it comes to really kind of honing down on your emotions, and really keeping everything in check and just continuing to play your game throughout the playoffs. And that's one thing that, like, if you're a Devils fan, you sit here and you wonder, Devils are probably a year or two ahead of schedule, achievement-wise, which is awesome. This is awesome as a Devils fan. It's awesome as a hockey fan, seeing this young team really build this chemistry. And going into the playoffs, we talk about that mental anguish of a long season. Palat's a guy that's really going to help keep these young kids in check.
And mention too, making the playoffs, like you said, maybe being ahead of schedule. So then this should be the first of many years, right? Consecutive seasons going to the playoffs, consistently getting into the first and then the second rounds of the playoffs, right? So like, there's a lot of things that you hope this is the beginning of for this team. Oddly enough, since we're doing a little bit like the high view, I have to go back and check the tape on what I said for. I remember when we acquired Timo. I said, who's going to benefit most? I mentioned Jesper Bratt. What didn't happen immediately, but now he's been coming on a little bit more lately. I got to go back and look at the points total that I said for him. Because I went and said I'm going to put him up over. I think I went for like the 80. I think it's over 80.
You did, and remember too, you said it's now Timo, Nico, and Bratt on that line. So you're seeing really Bratt benefit a lot now. And that goal was phenomenal that Bratt scored. That shot, that wrist shot was incredible.
Point being, he's on 66 points right now. I don't know if he has the juice to clear like almost 20 points across the last 9 games. But we don't know that for sure.
Well, you never know.
We got to watch and we got to see it here. Other guys, just as a tip of the cap here, you mentioned Mercer. He can go for 25 goals though in the season. He's at 23 right now. Dougie can go for 20. He's on 19 right now.
He's having a career year right now.
And sitting on, by the way, 49 assists. 49 assists. Can you name the top 3 assist men on the team right now?
It's going to be Jack Hughes.
Number 2.
Okay. Dougie Hamilton.
Number 1.
And Jesper Bratt.
It's going to be Nico Hischier with 40. Jesper Bratt, who's 4th, by the way, not off by much, with 35.
Yeah.
Those are your top 4 assist men there as well. And by the way, just to reiterate what you said, 30-point goal scorers right there from 2 to 4 in the assist category is also 40, 30, 31 when you come to goal scorers. So there's really been a lot of just incredible accomplishments for this team and individual players that I really like.
So Jack's 14 points away from 100 points, right? 9 games to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that he can get that? Is he going to catch Elias at 96? You're hearing it first. Right here, folks. Let's see if he can predict it.
Yeah. I think he catches Elias, and I think he also breaks 100.
He breaks 100?
Yeah. Or hits 100.
Wow.
Hits it. Yeah. Because you have 9 games. He's 14 points away, and you have, at a minimum, 3-4 critical matchups. Critical playoff impact matchups.
Yes.
If we believe that he's getting back on the right foot, then you have to believe there's a hat trick game coming here for Hughes before the season's over.
Wow.
I believe there's a hat trick game going for him, and then just really consistent play. Look at this last one. Assists as well, facilitating as well. So you start to add those together. Again, he had a 2-point performance in this recent win. If he had every other game was a 2-point performance, you're talking about already packing up 8 right there, getting over 90 and pushing towards 100.
You're foreshadowing that Jack Hughes is out of his slump and he is completely out of it now, and that he's going to break 100 points. So he's going to average a point and a half a game.
Stick. Exactly.
Okay.
And 9 games.
No, it's possible. I'm not. Listen, it's possible. I'm going to say.
I do hard math. Watch this. 5 games with 2 points and 4 games with 1 point gets you to 100.
Wow. I'm going to go into saying that with 2 games left, Jack is going to have 95 points. And he's going to be 1 point away from tying Eliash and 2 away from beating it.
I will not hedge my bets about that everything has sorted itself out. There's nothing to play for. You know what I mean? I'm not going to throw that out there where like the last 2 games are meaningless, so they don't play them, and whatever.
Realistically, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But I've shot my shot.
It's awesome. It is a huge milestone, obviously, for this franchise and Jack Hughes as a player early in his career. But at the scope of things, it really doesn't matter because we just want to play really well. And if he's going to be getting close to that 100-point mark, that means, in all reality, we're going to be playing very well.
He's in his 4th year.
It's unbelievable, man. He's so young. You know how much younger than us he is?
Yeah, it's a lot of people. You know what I always find funny? We can close out on this. It's been a good episode, I think. You can get us on YouTube, by the way, and on the podcast where we get those needs fulfilled. And as Danny said, we are getting more followers, more supporters, more interaction over on Twitter, on IG, where Dan's doing the good work there, and we really appreciate it. So continue to be a part of it. Ask us questions. Throw out random things that you want us to talk about. We'll dive into it. At 37 years old, this has always fascinated me for the last like 2 or 3 years. When they talk about like players in sports, it's like, I don't know, he's on the back end. There's not much time left. He's on his last legs. Aaron Rodgers, the Hagrid veteran. I'm only like 2.5 years younger than Aaron Rodgers.
What's even crazier to think about when people say that they're in their prime, it's usually like 28 to 31 years old.
Yeah, I blew it. Or you can make the case that I crushed my prime. It just depends on like what your definition of,
what aspect of life and what aspect of life we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of boxes didn't get checked, but some other ones did. The bottom line is, folks, there are 9 games remaining for your New Jersey Devils. They have 2 critical matchups coming up here with the Rangers and with the Islanders. We've got Jack Hughes, who's going to hit 100. That's going to be exciting for everybody when that goes down. We've got Blackwood getting benched and Schmid getting brought back up very soon. That's fantastic. And we've got Miles Wood, Danny's #1 Devil in his heart and on the roster sheet. He's going to be a guy that ends up, I think, taking over. You said he's going to replace Timo in that lineup. Doesn't make sense from a lot of different angles, but that's what you believe.
What I am hoping about, in all seriousness, is that Bastian comes back and he's healthy, because I think he's very important to this lineup, and getting that BMW line back together for the playoffs is vital.
Really important final note, health. That does matter. Because quietly, there's been these little up and down players in and out trying to piece it together, right?
Which is what we talked about with Depp. Obviously getting Lazar, then he got hurt. Bastian got hurt. He went down. Sharangovich has been playing well. He stepped in, and he's been playing really well. So hats off to him. Boquist came out of the lineup last game, which is unfortunate. But, he's kind of had a slide a little bit offensively, which is going to happen for a young player. So it's great to have depth, and we want to be 100% healthy, obviously, when the playoffs come around.
You better believe it, friends. Enjoy us on all those great platforms. We'll be back again on Tuesday into Wednesday, breaking down the latest action for the New Jersey Devils and probably taking a look at a guy we didn't mention even once here. So we will discuss, just like the name on the ice, as it is with this podcast, it's always gravy.